great networking opportunity, to see and hear where the executives are going to the future.
Whether you're an OEM all the way down to a tier 4, this is the place to meet the people that can open the doors and create the opportunities.
We want not freedom but equality. We want our share of dealerships, our share of suppliers.
If you're going to give me all of your money and expect nothing in return, I'm going to take all of your money and give you nothing in return.
Economic parity, driving the plan for success, was the theme of the 14th annual RainbowPUSH Global Automotive Summit. More than 600 top automotive executives, suppliers, dealers, consumers, and activists gathered in Detroit for open and honest dialogue around the unfinished business of parity in the auto industry.
The auto industry has recovered from economic woes that beset our country, and they have not enjoyed the benefits of the auto industry's recovery and growth.
We must strive to play by one set of rules. As Reverend Jackson says, when the goals are clear and the rules are public, everybody wins.
Journalist Ed Gordon moderated a morning leadership panel.
When you look at the numbers for advertising with Nielsen, give me a sense of what you think that consumer base can do to move corporations to prove to them that we spend, that we support, and you better not overlook us.
You can't just talk at consumers. You have to be a part of solving the consumer issue. And I challenge us as consumers to ask ourselves these 5 questions as well. And it relates to programming on television, it relates to what you're buying in grocery stores, the cars that you're purchasing. But the first question should be, did I have to go outside of my neighborhood to purchase this product or service? And the second question needs to be, does this company hire people who look like me? And are they in decision-making positions? The third question is, do I see positive images represented of me in these companies' commercials or their ads, their shows? Am I being represented positively? And the fourth, George gets to that as well, does this company have a history of supporting causes that are important to my community? And the fifth most important question that you should ask before you plunk down your credit card, pull out your wallet, if the answer to any of these other 4 questions is no, am I willing to still spend my money with this company? And if so, why? What does that say about me as a consumer?
When you study corporations who have more diverse populations than others, they also have a better profit line than others. So that's something that we need to pay attention to. But the public policy advancing Black people was never our public policy. African American people pushed very hard for the advances that we got in the 70s, pushed very hard to ensure that corporate boards, employers were diverse. That's not happening anymore because it's not in the public interest from a congressional perspective to hold people accountable for the things we say we want.
It is still not only possible, but probable for a white man to grow up in North America, at least the US and Canada, or Europe, get a good education, enter a field, reach the top of that field, and never have a peer relationship with a woman and never have a meaningful relationship with a person of color. They can get all the way 0 to 60 career-wise and never get to know us. When you get a CEO that's committed, that is a horse you have to ride like a thoroughbred, because you have no commitment that when he's gone, that the person who follows him will have any interest in the work that we do.
If you want to know what people think about diversity, ask who the diversity officer reports to. If the diversity officer is part of human resources, that doesn't mean anything. If the diversity officer reports to the CEO, that suggests that the officer has a direct pipeline to the decision maker around not only human resources, but also supplier development and a number of other things. So the conversation has to be with the CEO, not with the director of diversity.
Well, I would add on that, also the supplier diversity person asked that question, where do they report? Because often it reports, it's buried in procurement, and all the spending where the profits are today are often in professional services and in technology, media services, and advertising, things like that. And if the person who's the supplier diversity person reports through procurement, we get locked out of all the spend where the wealth's being created in today's society.
Dr. King gave black people their marching orders 50 years ago. And he talked about corporate America treating all of its citizens fairly. And if corporate America did not treat us fairly, that we had no alternative but to economically withdraw our support. So the responsibility for things to move in a different direction is for us to leverage the two most important things black people have, Ed, moral authority and economic power.
A detailed white paper entitled Assault on Diversity honed in on unfinished business in the industry, from membership on corporate boards to advertising and supplier diversity and overall employment.
Now the companies are awash in capital up top, with their primary markets being foreign markets. So you have foreign content in the car, products made cheaply, and foreign markets for the car, and Detroit becomes an odd city. We become the odd people locked out of such a process. That's what happens when you globalize capital and don't globalize justice, don't globalize workers' rights and children's rights, women's rights, and environmental security. That's what happens when you have that imbalance. Imbalance of trade hits us in the most devastating way.
Definitely a pleasure to be invited to come out here.
Television personality A.J. Calloway emceed the scholarship luncheon, where 25 young people received $2,500 scholarships thanks to the GM Foundation.
The General Motors Foundation has a long history of investing in education, and we support the development of the next generation of leaders and innovators, and we feel it's so very important to ensuring that they have accessible, affordable, and rewarding educational opportunities.
And Reverend Jesse Jackson moderated a candid discussion with the presidents of General Motors and Toyota.
What you see as a business imperative for the equality, diversity movement, what do you see as a business imperative?
That one's easy for me because, the company's been through quite a lot over the last 8 years, including bankruptcy. What that is, though, is an opportunity for us to take a little bit of success that we've had and reinvest it into rebuilding the company into the face of the people who buy our products, which I don't think it really was for decades, frankly. We couldn't hire anybody. We had an aged workforce, and we sold and recruited as a company that sold trucks in the Midwest. And that was it. And so now we have an opportunity to really rebuild the company and the coast and the southern parts of the United States, but also some of the more traditional areas like New York City and LA, where the diversity in the population is no longer minority. The minority is really becoming the majority. And so we have an opportunity to get that thinking into a company that was traditionally very bureaucratic, very white male oriented, and really start to reflect in our products, our sales and our marketing, what the United States and Canada and Mexico, frankly, have become today and in the future.
In the last few years, blacks have gone from 66% of suppliers down to 16, and gone from 750 dealerships down to 250. Now there must be a resurgence. There is a resurgence. Those at the top or those at the bottom came in last and left first and not really resurged. What's the business case for diversity?
Let me start with talking about the importance of diversity and inclusion. And diversity and inclusion is very important for us to understand. But delights our customers. Customer base is very diversified in this country already. However, I think that diversity and inclusion is not only about the business, but also about personal passion, especially for those coming from other countries like me. It is quite important to understand the history of this country first before getting involved in the business. So with that, Toyota is very committed to diversify our supply base, dealers, recruiting process, advertising process, or marketing process. It is very, very important for not only business end, but also personal.
Targeted workshops provided information and access to key players in the industry.
What percentage, because you mentioned, Scott, I think, is offshore? And what percentage is you going to think going to continue to be offshore? And what are going to be some of the variables that are going to determine to what extent you bring manufacturing back to the U.S. that creates jobs in the U.S. as opposed to doing work overseas with very competent suppliers?
Our philosophy at GM is build where we sell. Okay. So in general, we want to have manufacturing plants in the locations where we sell. Logistics is a huge cost factor, I think, for all of us. So we're being very strategic about what we really buy overseas and really trying to focus on local supply base, and in some cases, having to grow that supply base.
The vast bulk of what we're sourcing for our North American plants will be and is coming from North America, but we're also exporting too. It's not just a matter of what we're importing, it's what we can export, and we've found our export growth of components and parts from the U.S. in particular has been growing by leaps and bounds recently because there is a high level of competitiveness here in the U.S.
I learned a lot. It was great to have all the auto companies up front sharing best practices and talking about some of the issues and the challenges we've got today. And we come away, every time we do that, we come away with some new ideas.
Sourcing is a team sport, at least at most of the companies that I sit up here. So we're not making these decisions in a vacuum. Our product development colleagues have a lot of say in that. So one of the things we do, and we have a match pair process, and one of the things we do is it's both of their objectives, because the only way we can make these decisions correctly is that they both have to be measured, because people get paid by what they're measured on, and that's what they work on, okay? So reward and recognition and our paychecks. Everybody wants a good paycheck, right? So it's part of their objectives.
Because we're in a capital-intensive industry, we're looking 5-8 years out at any time, trying to understand where we need to grow, what from a location standpoint, from a model or segment standpoint, as well as from a technology standpoint.
The evening reception honored emerging leaders and living legends in the industry.
A person like Reverend Jackson, he has, as he refers to it, he shakes the trees, and people or individuals like us have to pick up the fruit. Reverend Jackson, I want to personally thank you for the things that you've done for us, the dealer body, and all of the people here in Detroit, whether they realize it or not. The fight goes on.
Reverend Jesse Jackson has been a mentor to everyone, and he has been a major, major mentor to all of us in the automotive industry.
In your program that you got today is a piece of work that I'm especially proud of, Glenda. I'm especially proud of this scorecard summary. Look at it and examine it, because the companies who are in the scorecard, we'll find a way to have them to react properly to it. But that's not the part that worries me. The part that worries me is how we are going to react to it. So I certainly hope that somehow that we can find some way to give Rainbow Push the kind of resources that they need to educate the public on how to use a great tool such as this.
And it was capped off with entertainment from Shantae Moore.
Now
and an appearance from legendary actress Pam Grier.
Reverend Jackson did create a template for us to stand up. That's what we used to do. Boots on the ground, signs in the air to be counted. And we are counted. That's why we're here today. I thank you. Happy birthday.
At a time when the minority population in America continues to grow at an historic pace, the 14th annual RainbowPUSH Global Automotive Summit provided one-of-a-kind networking opportunities and offered concrete solutions to level the playing field for African Americans.
I've met just 5 minutes ago, two suppliers that I think truly would have some opportunity to do business with us, either here in Michigan or down out of our Kentucky branch.
Access is so important, and that's what the conference gives you. It gives you access to executives and access to people that you ordinarily would not have.